Hello YouTube, Stainless here with another video. Gonna dovetail off of my theme of buck knives. Some of my favorite knives around. I kind of talked about how growing up as a kid, if you had a buck knife, when I say buck knife, generally talking about the buck folding 110 Hunter, which is this knife right here. And you were a kid and you had one of these, man, you were the king. These were highly prized possessions. Now they are going for upwards $70, $75, $60 at some places that I've seen. The last buck 110 folding hunter I bought for myself, I got for $29.95 at Walmart. But I mentioned earlier, something someone had mentioned about the lockback, some things I wanted to clear up. Your standard buck 110 folding hunter is going to have their 420 high carbon 420 HC steel. Now, I described it, raved about it kind of, and said it was an excellent steel. And I think it's, for my purposes, it's a great steel. It's nothing to brag about. These days, there are just such high-speed, high-tech, really space-age type steels that are products of our modern metallurgy sciences, which just outperform this in every way. They're harder, they'll hold an edge longer, they're more durable, and some are actually more stainless. A lot of them aren't, but they basically outperform this blade. This blade, you could probably, I'm trying to think of a good example, maybe skin out a mule deer and have to just sharpen it a couple times. There are other steels that, and you pay a price for them, they're premium steels now, these great high-tech steels where you could probably skin a herd of mule deer and not have to sharpen it once. But, and something else. So the 420, when I say and rave about it, for my purposes, it's more steel than I'm going to need. It's 420 HC, which isn't that expensive, and probably one of the reasons why a buck uses it. But it's their heat treat. I talked about the Boss method of heat treat, where it goes through different processes and steps where they are able to just really get the most out of that 420 HC. So it really performs. Probably hits above its weight, its class. And the grind, there's like two things: quality of the steel, the heat treat, chemistry, and the geometry. The geometry of this blade really lends itself to be an excellent slicer. I mean, you could use this in the kitchen, and it will just serve really well and probably outshine some of your kitchen knives. Someone had made a comment. I didn't mean to downplay the lock on this. This was basically, man, just a leap forward in evolution as far as pocket knives go. Having a lockback folding knife, and I mentioned like a hunter or woodsman or someone that's working the trades could actually safely carry a 3.5 inch bladed knife with them without having to worry about maybe hitting something, falling, and having the blade punch through the sheath and maybe injure them. They could easily just fold it and stow it safely this way. That way it's not going to hurt anything. And then when they needed it, the blade would be held in place. The lock is very sturdy, and I didn't mean to downplay it in any way. It just almost seamlessly connects with the blade and the spring bar. That's what this part is called. But I do know that it's not indestructible. It served outdoorsmen well for decades, and there's not an issue with it. You don't have to worry. It's going to safely hold it in place while you're using it. You don't have to worry about it closing on your fingers. One thing I've noticed, though, and it's a rare thing when these knives are abused, it's not a fixed blade knife. If you go to chopping and striking, the blade is hinged, so it's going to put pressure on your spring bar back here, and I've seen them snap, particularly where this pin is what holds the spring bar in place. And usually, if this is broken, it's broken right there because the metal is a little thinned out. So it's really not meant for chopping and hacking, or even nowadays a big rave with bushcrafting is batoning. There are tricks to batoning with the folding knife, but as for myself, I never found the need for that. I wouldn't recommend you batoning with any knife. If you are in a bushcraft survival type situation, that's probably the last thing you want to do with your knife, especially if it's the only knife you have. next to your teeth in a situation like that, that's going to be the most precious thing. Wouldn't throw a knife either. Wouldn't lace it to a piece of wood and use it as a spear. Definitely not in a situation like that. But just remember, it's not Excalibur here. It has its limitations. Great knife, one of my favorite all around. But it's just like any tool. If you use it correctly, it's going to serve you well for years, probably outlive you, and something you can pass down. If you abuse it, well, certainly you are likely to damage it or destroy it. I talked about Buck's custom shop, and I love their custom shop. I've ordered a number of custom knives over the years, and I've found some of the boxes they came in, and I thought I would share those with you today. Just basically, I'm kind of fond of saying sometimes presentation. Well, there are, on some higher end knives, you can receive your knife in a suitcase, locking case. You open it up and boom, there's your $500, $600 knife, or maybe $2,000 knife. And a lot of people might kind of balk at those prices, but this knife collectors maybe wouldn't. Like I said, there are knives these days are made with different exotic materials, titanium, different types of aluminum. There's G10 handles, micarta, and of course the blade steels. All kinds of different blade steels out there, and some of them are engineered to really precise tolerances. And they're not just hinged with a pin. They have actual ball bearings in there, bronze bushings. You could just go nuts. So there are people that are willing to pay that kind of money for a knife. And I kind of think presentation is important even if you're not paying that much money for a knife. Here are some of the boxes that my custom knives have come in from Buck's Custom Shop. This one is a box for the 110 Indigo Royal Wood. I'm sure I showed this before. Got your little gold elastic band there. You open it. And this, I think I did show this, this sheath. It's really soft and supple compared to like the hard leather sheaths. This is that Indigo buck that I showed you. And when I got this, the nickel silver bolsters, which really nice. I think they contrast well with the indigo wood. The blade steel here is S30V, which is just a really nice, well-balanced cutlery steel. It is actually one of the, it was considered a premium steel, kind of like when you get like the iPhone 9, when the iPhone 9 came out, it was like the rave. And now I think we're into the iPhone 15. Well, this was kind of in that situation. When this came out, it was like the latest, greatest premium steel. Had properties that allow it to hold an edge over the regular 420 HC steel that Buck puts on their standard knives. So I originally got this for its kind of looks, and I'm intended to use this as a beater. And I do, if I'm going to have a project or something, this is one of the knives that I would reach for, and it really kind of looks, few scratches, looks brand new. And a lot of that speaks to the toughness of the knife and actually the type of steel that's used here. But it comes in this really wonderful box, and if you can look in there, you've got your certificate of authenticity. Talks about natural markings in the wood. It's not manufactured wood. This is actually the way they got it from nature. So all the handles, even the slabs on your same knife, are going to be different. And then their famous forever warranty. Set that one aside. Here's another box, beautiful box, same gold colored lace. This is the one G10. I think I said micarta in my last video, but this knife, it's actually G10, which is great. I didn't opt for any fancy sheaths. It's just a basic Cordura sheath. There's materials in there. Let's see, certificate of authenticity and warranties and everything. And that's really it. Actually, that's a good sheath. That will really work, and that feels good on your belt. Really nothing to look at. And you've seen this, and this black material here is not micarta. It's actually G10, and I think it adds some weight to it. I've always thought that this knife was heavier than some of my other knives, and you can also get inscriptions on it. It got serrations on it, so it would look different. And I always go back to the spine. This coloring that they have, this dark coloring on the back, it's just really something to behold. In the sunlight, it's just like it shines and it's dark, almost like the bluing on revolver from back in the day. They would put that really glossy bluing on. Kind of reminds me of that. Now, Buck is not the only one that appreciates presentation. I ran across this Templar knives. I was in the mood or market for out the front type of knives. People might call them switchblades. It's 440 steel. I guess this is a Molly compatible type of sheath. Looks really high speed and fancy. And there is the out the front. I just fell in love with the Texas flag pattern. It has that glass breaker or a skull cracker. This is actually kind of small. And it's for its size, it's really, really heavy, which means that unless you're wearing like thick jeans or pants made out of real thick material, it's just gonna just move around a lot. It's just way out of proportion, its weight, which kind of gives it a feeling of quality. And if you did actually need to use a glass breaker, you have that extra weight. It's an out the front knife, 440C steel, which I kind of like 440C. It's a step up from the 420. Used to be the premium steel of its time, and this is almost a clip point. They say that's a drop point. So, okay, that's a drop point. It's out the front. It's a high quality out the front knife, which is something I was looking for. And it's kind of small, so even though it is switchblade, it is not going to clear the benches, you know. Oh my God, you know, think of the children, Jay, that kind of thing. And we have different tastes. I guess, like collecting anything, you maybe go through different phases. And maybe I owe this phase to kind of Lord of the Rings or something. I wanted a knife that just had lots of personality, maybe did look like something one of the characters from Lord of the Rings might carry. And it'd be nice if it was made of some really nice materials. Something that caught my eye, and it was a beast, just an outrageous tank of a knife, really just kind of like, you know, not practical. What would be an example of that? I guess like maybe a 50 caliber Desert Eagle handgun, or any Desert Eagle handgun. You know, you're not going to buy that for any tactical purposes or practical really uses that you get a handgun for. Honestly, it looks like a beast. It is a beast. It'll shoot fine, yeah, but really it's just the only people I think would buy something like that are just people that really love that type of gun. Well, this is kind of what that knife this fits into. It's a nice presentation box. Proella, it's a Russian company, as it turns out. And what I thought was cool is there are magnets in this lid. You can almost hear that. And I guess you can see them. This I got for actually under $100. And you get this, like it's a warranty card. And got the one at the bottom. You open it up. This is the knife. And I don't know if you can tell in my hand, it's supposed to be a 4-inch blade of D2 tool steel, which is considered a premium steel. Some people call it super steel. It did have its time for a while where it was the big dog and it quickly got replaced. But it is a tank of a knife. It does ride well in my pocket, but if you can appreciate the thickness, it has ball bearings in there. Let me see if I can look at that blade. That's D2 steel blade. Just a real tank of a knife, and you probably could baton with this knife. It could take a beating. If you can tell the way the tip is constructed, you come to a really fine like tip, but it's thick. There's a lot of material on the front end of the knife, and that actually adds strength to the knife. Now, again, I want to stress that Remember the limitations of your tool. Please do not use your knives as screwdrivers or pry bars, but it's nice to know that you've got a lot of strength there close to the tip. And the tip is fine and it's razor sharp. Can do a lot of fine work. Notice the curve of that blade. It is a slicer. You could probably use this in the kitchen as it thins out as it gets close to the edge. D2 steel does have some, it's tough steel. It's a tool steel. It will hold an edge for a while, so you'll get a lot of use out of this, and you could probably use this as a chopper in the kitchen too. And just the look of the design, it's just like, man, it's just like crazy looking tank of a knife, and I'll carry it. You'll know you're carrying it. It's very weighty. It's a liner lock, and I think you can tell in there the slabs are pretty thick. I'm not sure. I don't believe it's titanium. Well, it looks kind of gray. I'm gonna have to look up on this more. It's not completely open. It has a spacer in the back, and I'm fine with that. But then again, with the presentations, you get all kinds of cool stuff. You get this tool for tight, and it's not almost completely the clip. You can go from a righty carry to a lefty carry. You can't go from tip down, tip up. It's always going to be tip up carry, and some people like tip up, others like tip down. And there are knives that have the holes tapped out up here, so you have that option. But this one, you can just go lefty or righty carry. And here's a tool to make that happen. And it also comes with extra hardware. If something happens to your the bolt, which escapes me right now, the bolt that holds the blade to the handle, you have a replacement here, and that looks pretty sturdy. And again, I'm going to get my magnet out and check it, because I think that it does have some titanium in this. I know these clips are titanium. You got 2 spare clips, which is just really, really nice. And if you're a collector like I am, you know, it's just kind of, it's almost like there's a romance to it. It's like you get the box and it's like, wow. And, you know, you feel, I've hung on to these for years. I've had these knives for years. And it's just really neat what goes into this. And I guess that's all part of that presentation and marketing. But I really hope you enjoyed this video. Please comment if you have any questions about anything. I'm not knocking the Buck 110. I never intended to knock the Buck 110. It's been around for decades, probably going to be around for decades more, because it is just a great knife. It's a great idea, well thought out, well executed, and it's so organic. It just feels great in the hand. It's relaxing to just hold this thing. It's like a spa day for your hand. And there's a reason why it's so popular. There's a reason why it's been around. It is a good knife, and it's a high quality knife. Right now, the Buck 110 Folding Hunter is still being made in the good old US of A. This one, if you can see the mark down there, is Idaho. This is when they moved the factory to Idaho. And these can be heirlooms. It could be something that can serve you throughout your whole life, whether you're a hunter, fisherman, or in the trades, or just like knives like me. And you can pass it on to your children. And like I said, sometimes they develop patina. It's a coloring of the steel, nicks and gouges, and sometimes even breaks and fractures. And they tell a story about your time with this knife and the adventures you had with it. And then you can pass it on to someone else. Just really, really great knives. I love them. High quality. And thank you very much for your time. I hope you enjoyed the video again. This is Stainless, out.